people, welcome back, or welcome if you're coming here for the first time. This is In Conversations with R&B. This is Rabreet.
This is Bruno.
And today we are talking about psychological themes in the movie Hotel Transylvania.
Yes.
So before we dive right into it, why did we choose Hotel Transylvania?
It was your pick this time.
It was my pick. Why did I choose Hotel Transylvania? I love my girl Selena Gomez. Okay.
Selena Gomez?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Shout out, Selena. So we're doing Hotel Transylvania. It's also my comfort movie.
Comfort movie?
Yes.
Why is it your comfort movie?
It's my comfort movie because it's got monsters in it.
Okay.
And we all have monsters in our lives.
Underneath our beds?
Yeah. Underneath our beds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So a lot of the topics that we're going to be covering today would be fear, just general fear.
Okay.
So because there is the fear
of the outside world?
there we go. And then we have irrational beliefs,
Yeah.
right? And then we also have parental anxieties that come when your kid is coming out of age.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The overprotective parenting.
We love parents though, but they're all overprotective. There is no parent
Somewhat.
who's not overprotective.
Somewhat for sure, yes.
Ideally, parents should be overprotected, and they are.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you have a kid, I guess you should protect your kid, right?
That's
no matter what is the cost. So
Isn't that what a parent is?
I think that comes with the classification of being a parent. Yeah.
Also learned that parenting is a verb. It's an action doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I didn't think of it that way.
well, it's a full-time action that you have to do. There's no break from it.
Yeah, definitely. The people say once you become a parent, you never sleep again like you used to.
Yeah.
And the saying of like
Can't
sleeping
tell.
like a baby is not true.
Okay.
All right.
The first question that I have
Mm.
is, what do you think about the irrational fear that we see in the movie? Like, what irrational fears do you come across when you're watching the movie?
So, when rewatching the movie, because I watched it a while ago,
Yeah.
I feel like there are irrational beliefs that comes up, and it's interesting because you see the perspective not from the human side, but you see the perspective from the monster side, and then the monster has irrational fears with the humans of like them being violent, killing everyone, like the fire with Frankenstein, you know, like all of that. And they cannot. Well, but at the same time, it's Dracula's fault too. You know, like that created that like irrational belief of them like believing that the humans are not good. And at the same time, like if you watch the movie, you will see, of course, that it's an outdated belief that they have. So
To join on that, we also do see that later in the movie that there is some sort of history that
Yeah.
he has with humans, right?
that's
So I do believe the irrational fear that we're talking about also is because he hasn't left his premise. He hasn't gone back into the world ever since his wife died,
yeah.
and that has been a traumatic experience. Because in the start of the movie too, we see he says, you know, nobody's gonna do anything to Mavis.
Mhm.
Mavis? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the starting of the movie, you see that he's trying to inflict fear of humans onto this child because he's very overprotected.
Oh yeah, we're right at the
Right
bat.
off the
yeah,
bat.
right off the
Right
bat
off the
when
bat.
when she's like playing around
Yeah.
and then she's going outside. And he's like, we never go outside ever.
Yes. They take away our candy
Yeah.
and then they burn us, right?
Yeah.
So,
And take away their toes, I think, or something.
Yes, yes.
that's right.
and I love how Dracula calls her like my creepy paws. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's basically that scene there. It's this like it's the takeaway of the central theme of the movie, which is basically like the fear of the unknown, the overprotective parenting, you know, and the lengths that parents go to, protect their children. So
There is a length that he goes to on Mavis's birthday too, when he puts up the village.
oh yeah, like
That is a direct reflection of that parental anxiety of my child's gonna leave me.
yeah,
But also because he's unknown to the world outside, he's like, because in his mind humans are killing Draculas and monsters, so he does not want that on his child,
yeah,
and he's just like, no, no, we're not gonna go out. So there's that infliction of fear. There is that parental anxiety of my child growing up, and then there is this trauma that he already has from his wife dying.
well, yes, like there's definitely like his overprotection comes from a deep place of trauma. I mean, a place of deep trauma.
Yeah.
You would say, and yeah. And
How do you think it's like when the comparison between Dracula when Mavis is small and comparison of Dracula on her 118th birthday? How do you see any difference between his parenting style, or do you see that he's the same father that he was when she was little?
I think he still acts the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there is any change in there.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that, yeah, I think maybe what changes is, again, of that idea of him not going outside in the world, not knowing how humans are behaving anymore, and then still believing that. I think like that consumes his life so much that he doesn't like he doesn't take it easy, like he doesn't relax. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like it became even more, of a
Amplified.
yeah, amplified when he didn't change.
Yeah.
When growing up, because she always has this idea of like, I wanted to go outside, I want to explore the world, I want to find my paradise, like you guys found it, right? So then when he's seeing her having, I believe we all have this, like growing up, we have this need to explore, to find out what is the world made of and figure shit out for ourselves.
Yeah, that's.
So,
I agree on that. Another question is, what do you think about the fear of humans that monsters depict? Like, how do you see their fear being portrayed on camera, on the television camera screen?
Yeah. Sorry. What's the question again?
The question is, how is their fear of human beings, right, being portrayed on the screen? Like, what are the things that are doing that is telling us that they are scared of human beings?
I feel like it's that idea, the same, like if you were going to put a mirror and then having the human being on their side, and it's the same thing of like, it's the unknown, not the same, I don't know, like you'd say species or something, I don't know. It's that not being on the same group, then having that fear, and then it is portrayed that. So like the monsters, for example, having the human beings of being, let's say, the human beings are ghosts for them.
Yeah.
Kind of, like, yeah, because like then whenever they show up, when they found out that the kid is a human, what's his name again? Johnny? Yeah. So when they found out that Johnny is a human being, like that everybody is scared with him, like he was a ghost, like he's infected or something.
Talking about that happens in real life too. Like, we have set prejudices.
Oh yeah.
Through, right?
No, definitely. Like with everyone that is like different than us.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's not the same skin color, it's not the same eyes or whatever, like whatever is the difference that we would have, like physical differences. Again, in the end, blood is the same. Like, of course, there are different types of blood, but we bleed the same color. It's not different.
Talking about bleeding same, it's reminding me of Shylock from The Merchant of Venice, where he goes, "Doth Jew have no eyes? There's a little part, and we're gonna talk about it later. We'll talk about it outside, but does Jude not have those eyes?
Okay. What does
It's
that mean?
Shakespeare. It just means so. There's a scene where like Portia, she is demanding for pound. Shylock has demanded for a pound of flesh from the guy, and Portia is kind of like taking sides in the court and everything.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he's like, "Why do you look down upon us? Like, do me as a Jew, do I not have eyes?
Mm.
Do I not bleed the same blood that you do? Do I not walk the same way?
Okay.
Why are you having said prejudices just because I come from a different religion?"
Yeah.
Right? But the play is very strategic.
Yeah, but then again, like it's that idea of like people think that we are different, and we are somehow, but at the same time we're made of the same materials.
Well, at the core, we are all human beings, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think
It's made of atoms, like anything in the world, pretty much. So.
Yeah, that's true. Well.
Okay.
How does Johnny coming into the scene and Dracula confronting Johnny have an impact on the change of scenery? Like in terms of how we look at the human world from, like, how does that change Dracula's perspective of humans, is what I'm asking.
Well, one thing that I noticed is
Yeah.
it's interesting because like when Johnny comes in,
Mm-hmm.
he is like, how the heck did you get here? like how did you get here? It's like, oh yeah, no, I saw these guys on fire and everything, and I just followed them and got here. Which is like if you look at it, like following your question, but at the same time like attaching, like connecting something in there, is Mavis and him and Johnny.
Yeah.
They're complete opposites. Mavis is the one that is like living in a bubble that her father created there, although she wants to burst out of that bubble and explore the world, but he doesn't want to let her do that.
Yeah.
And then you have carefree Johnny that doesn't give a flying F to anything, and he just wants to experience life. Yeah. Like he's going to concerts, like all of that, he doesn't care. He's just like out in the world exploring and finding out, life.
Yeah.
And when Dracula starts seeing that side of him, I feel like there's one scene specifically that changes everything. Is when they play with the tables.
Important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Because when they play with the tables, that's when Dracula actually is having fun. He's not like that overprotective parenting up there. He just like puts his guard down and he's actually having fun with Johnny. And that's, I think, like that's when it like the seed is planted that Dracula starts to think that humans are not so bad anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a very good answer to that. To connect to that too, I also feel like when you see Johnny come into the scene, right?
Yeah.
You see him being this free guy who wants to explore, right? And because he has this open-mindedness towards everything, his mind just does not comprehend that it's an actual Dracula or there are actual monsters there.
Yeah.
But on the same hand, when he realizes that he's an actual Dracula, he is so scared. Like there's that point in the movie, right? But there's that overcoming of fear for Johnny as well, just as much it is for Dracula, because it's not just the one-sided sword, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Where he is getting over that fear, Johnny is getting over that fear, and they're existing together. They're coexisting in that same space. And then Dracula comes and tells him about his trauma, they bond over it, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, sweet. That's a nice point.
Yeah, and like one other thing that to keep in mind is that because Johnny and Mavis, like I was saying, is like the complete opposites in there, it just show us a little bit of like how love can challenge fear.
Yeah.
Because of their little relationship that starts there, like their little love that starts there, right? So that's where like.
But I also feel like the reason, well, it's not just that,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the reasons that it's not an ideal world. I know it's a movie and I need to get over it. I understand that. But technically, Mavis also finds Johnny, like, she thinks that Johnny is her zing right off the
Yes.
bat because she's never come across somebody who's her age who meets her.
I mean, it's not that her age.
Well,
She's 118. He's like 21.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Don't mess. No, we're not right there. But age. He's technically 121 when he lies to her.
Oh yes.
Okay.
And,
So-
and it's funny how like they come up with like 118. Like 18 is the legal age, right? It's that birthday where you become like, an adult.
Who is an adult?
Yeah. We're all children
Children.
in adults' bodies.
Yes.
Yes.
We were just talking about that. Okay. Another question would be when Johnny enters said scene and Mavis finds out, right? She has this whole fit, like, you lied to me and I'm gonna leave and everything.
Yeah.
How do you think Dracula is taking that? Like, how is he feeling as a parent, lying to the child, and also basically keeping her in that bubble because he realizes that all the things that he's inflicted on her now has, like, that glass has broken. And how do you think what that does to Dracula? Because we all know what happens to Mavis, right? We
Yeah.
know she's upset, she wants to go away,
Mm-hmm.
yada yada yada. But what about Dracula? We know he's upset and he's with all these people, but in terms of that psychological perspective, what do you think is going on in Dracula's mind at that time?
Well, the problem that I see with, like, for example, like, I understand parents are trying to protect their kids, and he was just trying to do that. He was being overprotective, and he uses control as basically a coping mechanism for fear.
Yeah.
And he projects his fears into his girl, even if those fears may no longer be relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? And again, parents overestimate the dangers, in their child's life. And I completely understand, although I'm not a parent, I get the idea of, like, if I had a child, I would do anything to protect my child. And I feel like every good parent would do the same for the child too. But when he lies to her, he does the whole thing of, like, putting up the village, and so then he can, in her eyes, she can believe that yes, humans are not trustworthy, so I should not be around them, and I should not explore the world and live in my bubble and die in my bubble, kind of thing. Although that's the thing also too, like, if she's 118, how old is Dracula though? I wonder.
Old.
Yeah, like very old. Like, so then they are immortal, right? They won't die. Well, but no, because his wife died. Was she a vampire too? She was, right?
But she died on a stake.
Yeah,
like,
she
she
died
was
because
killed.
she was killed. Yes, that's true. Not because she died of old age.
Poor thing, I feel so bad for Dracula.
Yeah. I mean, like, imagine that. Like, he has no other help with raising a child, and not even someone to love besides his child. Like, love in like in a romantic
Yeah,
way,
no,
right?
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But
So
yes, that's.
I feel like all of that is a big, heavy weight on him. And when she discovers that he was lying, it's basically, For him, I think it's almost like the end of his perfect world, like the perfect bubble that he created there. And then now that she knows the truth, then there is nothing holding her back anymore for her to leave.
You know, on that, I also feel like a lot of the times in outside world,
Mhm.
you know, people, parents have this, it's a very similar thing that every parent goes through when they finally learn that their child has grown up,
Yeah.
right? Because up until that point, everything that the parent has taught their child is what the world is. And then all of a sudden, the world that you've created for them, the ego that you've built theirs, it's shattered,
Yeah.
right? And then they start building up their own ego, they start building up their own world. And we see that with Mavis as well. But in the same scenario, it's only after the world, the ego has shed itself that she's like, you know, Dad, I think Johnny was my Zane,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's that moment of realization too.
Yeah.
But in order to gain that realization, she had to go through all of that. Dracula had to lie to her. Dracula had to build up her ego just so that it shatters at the end of it, and then she finally finds her Zing. Yes, it is Johnny because he's in the scene. I also am a complete believer if there are many people out there, it's going to be difficult for you to choose.
Yeah, of course. Like it happens with us though.
Yeah.
With the internet coming in, you have like the apps all over that you can like have a dating.
The pool.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, there's plenty of fish, right? Like there's a lot of fish on the sea, but then at the same, it's just because, yeah, if we were like living in the old age, I mean the old days that you had no internet, there was only your town, city, whatever, and then the people in there, that's pretty much the pool that you would get from. But then when you give a lot of options, it's
Yeah.
like when you're watching a movie, for example, you go on Netflix, you go on any streaming service, and then there's a full catalog there for you to find something to watch.
Yeah.
A lot of people just like waste an hour or two just trying to find something they could watch together, or they will watch by themselves. And it's, yeah, like because of the pool being so big, then how can you focus on only one thing? It gets complicated, yes, and I understand that because for Mavis, Joni is the only one that it is somewhat compatible to her. But then again, because it's a movie, and that idea of like you finding the love of your life. Yes, and then it comes in, yeah, because it is a movie, there is romance in there involved. So yes, Johnny should be, because why didn't they put Johnny with someone else together, like two guys, you know, like being carefree and explorers, two friends.
Well, then there would be a love triangle. It's a children's movie. We don't need a love triangle.
Well, no, but that's the thing, right? So that's why they didn't create someone, or they didn't even have someone in the monster side that was the same age as her, to kind of like not have that idea in the movie that there is someone that she could choose beside him.
Yeah.
Because the idea portrayed in the animation as well is that there's only one love. You know, there's only one person, like they sing. There's only one person that you would love. Like I don't know about you guys, but maybe you have someone that you loved before, that you fell in love, and you think to the end of your days that that is only gonna be the only one that you're gonna like fully love. The other people that would show up in your life, you get to like them, you get to enjoy their company, and you get to say that you love them and all, but then that feeling of love, like that first feeling of when you fell in love, I think maybe there's only once that zing thing.
I don't believe that. No.
I don't know, like it's something to think about it, like.
It is something to think about. I don't like to think about it.
Okay.
I don't like to think that there is only one person you can love in your entire life.
No, definitely not. But it's that idea of like, do you remember how old were you when you first fell in love?
Or, I don't know.
Like I think.
Well, okay, I can tell you my first love was most
Uh.
definitely my mom.
Yeah, no, but I mean like a romantic love.
I'm not gonna talk about that on camera.
Okay, I'll say my piece then. When I was probably 15, I think, or so, I fell in love with this girl, and we were together for 5 years, and like I still adore her to this day, and I still love her, but not in the way that I love her before. But I don't feel like I would ever find someone that I would love the way that I loved her. I don't know. That like it's I think it's like when you like like your favorite food and you try the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you try the first time, even though you can repeat that food again
Mm-hmm.
a second, third time
Mm-hmm.
on the same day or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna taste the same. Because the person you were when you first tried, it's not the same person that it is taking the second time, the same dessert, the same food.
But that's because your initial utility is just fulfilled. That's just like the first response of that food is fulfilled.
Okay.
So it's never going to be the same the second time.
Yeah, but love is the same thing. Like it fulfills you too, right? Somehow. No, don't you think so?
Loving myself fulfills me for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, like, no, not only that, but like, of course, you gotta love yourself first before you love someone else. That's the main thing that you have to take away from. But when you love someone, you feel fulfilled too, don't you? Like you feel like you are invincible. There is nothing like if you know that other person loves you too, and you guys are together, you don't feel like that there is anything that can break you guys apart.
That's true. I do believe that the part from Interstellar 2, that love is the only thing that can transcend time and distance.
And space, yes.
And space.
Yeah.
I do believe that. I do believe that. I've seen that in my life. I've seen how people have been in love with one another despite the distance between them. I have seen people in love with each other no matter how bad the day is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a choice. It's a constant choice you're making, right? I'm waking up and I choose this person and I choose to love this person.
Yeah.
And no matter how far this person is, whether it's in distance, whether it's in time, whether it's in just your mental capacity, that love does not shrink because it's an action that you're doing every day.
Yeah.
Right? So talking about loving somebody, we're confining that into, and when I say loving somebody, just loving that one person, right? Like a romantic love.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very heavy hit to put on somebody though. Never experienced it, so I cannot tell that, but it's a very big hit to put on one person.
In what way?
In ways like sometimes the other person cannot love you the way that you want them to love you.
Well, but that's the idea of like again. Do you want to like connect this with the movie? For example, is Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene like there that like there's a quote. I don't remember who says it, but it's like Captain Control Freak.
Yes.
And it's just like because Dracula's trying to control every aspect of Mavis' life, right? And it backfires on him because she finds out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the irony is that the more we try to control things, and the things that we can't control specifically, is the more suffering we create for ourselves and we create for others. So that idea there that you just mentioned is that like wanting to control the other person and wanting them to control the way they love you, and that's the wrong part, because you can't do that. And yeah, it's shitty because you wanna feel love, feel validated by the person that you love, the way that you think you deserve, and the way that you think would be best for you, and it would make you feel good. But also, if you think about it, the person that you're loving, there's a reason why you love that person, is because the authenticity of herself, or of himself. Like, that person there, being authentic, that's what made you fall in love with that person, probably. And what keeps you having that longing for loving that person. Now I'm getting.
Sidetracked?
Yes.
That was a good line, though. That was a very good line. I went somewhere else.
Me too. And anyways, the idea is this: protection is important,
Yes. But
but preparing the children for the world is even more important than what Dracula was trying to do.
yes.
So.
And coming back to, preparing them for the world,
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that the reason it is important, yes, we can shelter our child. Yes, we are supposed to protect them. We are going to shelter them. We are going to make sure that they see a good world out there.
Yeah.
But the actual realities of the world is not like that. There is going to be a day when somebody takes an advantage of said child.
Yeah.
What are you going to do then? Again, I'm not saying that it's a child and the child has been taken advantage of. I mean, they have grown up, but they're still a child.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is they haven't had enough exposure in their life. And because they haven't had that enough exposure in their lives, they're also very much confined to the bubble that they have.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're confined to the bubble, your mindset is narrow, your way of behavior is narrow, and you cannot adjust outside. Because we have to put up a persona, and it gets really difficult to put up a persona if you have a narrow mindset.
Yes. Totally agree with you.
We were just talking about how we break personas too the other day. We're going to talk about that in another episode, of course, but
Yeah.
keynote.
Yeah, and it's, again, if you, like, parents want to, sometimes they forget this, I think, is that they don't raise their kids for themselves to be in that nest,
Mm-hmm.
but they have to raise their kids to fly away to the world. And
Yeah.
you do a disservice to your kids when you don't prepare them for the world, because the world is a nasty place.
Yeah.
And can put you down to your knees, and it will put you down to your knees for sure. And it's a matter of, like, how is it, like Rocky on his movie says, like, it doesn't matter how many times life punches you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you
Getting up.
And moving forward, and that's the idea. So, like, the same idea for the kids, like, you build that resilience with your kid there.
Yeah.
And sheltering them from all the bad things in the world, again, it's just a disservice to them, and it's good. It's not gonna help them in the end, and it's gonna cripple them to live in this world. So
That's, yeah. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. On the same note, when we're talking about letting the kids have that exposure, right? It is also so important to know that, like, have this belief within yourself about your child that your child is not going to do something wrong.
okay, yeah,
Because what I mean by that is, when you as a parent start thinking that your child's going to do something bad,
mm-hmm.
Murphy's Law. Something that you fear is going to happen,
Yeah.
right? So why even bring that thought into your head? Like, why do you want to think that your child is not cognizant enough of their actions?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that, and the point that I'm getting at, is parents, that this is how you know that it's a good parenting, when they have sheltered you enough for you to know that no matter where I go, I got them and they got me, but also given them enough independence that, hey, go explore the world, right? Go see the things that you want to see, go do the things that you want to do. Just understand that these are your limits and these are not, right? And that's a very key point in a lot of people in my lives. And then, and when I mean my life, I also mean their parents, because people in my life have good parents. You can tell a child is raised well the way that they behave outside, and that's a direct reflection of that raising them, right? So yeah, that's very important to protect them enough, but also let them be, like, have that exercise of this child can be. There's also another thing that I was reading the other day. It was like the more messier your place is, this goes for toddlers, the more messier your place is, or the more loud your child is in front of you, that just means that they're comfortable being themselves.
Yeah.
And I believe that the most rewarding thing for a parent is that their child is themselves and they're not masking, or they're not putting up a persona, so as to say, to impress their parents, which we do, of course. We, mom, dad, I love you, I do this to impress you, yes, but what I'm trying to get at is you are free with them, right? Because you have been given enough freedom to exercise that.
Yeah. Well, the thing with that too is that I'm thinking now.
Yeah.
I remember Neil deGrasse Tyson, like the astrophysics.
Yes.
Yes. So he mentions one thing that I just when you were talking about this, like that, like having like the kid having independence and like being messy in there. It reminded me when he mentions about like this kid that, like, when they're playing there, let's say they're playing with the glass, and then the glass breaks, and then on that, like they kind of like finds out how glass works, and it breaks. It's an experiment for them, and then they kind of like understand a little bit, oh, this is how the world works, you know, like some things can break, some other things cannot. Like if they were playing with the plastic cup, for example, then it would not break, it would come down on the floor. But maybe they were playing with the plastic before, and then now they're playing with the glass, and then the glass breaks, and then they see the little difference in there. But what he points us out is, if your kid only plays with the plastic cup, for example, and you never introduce a glass one, they all gonna think that the world is just that idea of like the plastic cup. You can throw it on the floor and it won't break. So they don't have that realization that there are things that look similar but they're different, and that could become a problem later in their life, because they will treat other things the same, but they don't understand that they're not the same. They look the same, but they're completely different inside. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. But
that makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, it does. You tell us. Does that make sense to you, or were they all just words?
Yeah, and it's, again, it's that idea of like you having for the kid, like Dracula and Mavis, is the independence. She needs that, and he's not giving it to her when he's sheltering her. She's not being independent on her own and figuring out life for herself. Because although people always say like, oh yeah, like our grandparents, you know, our parents' grandparents are wiser than us because they have been here longer, but at the same time, it's their first time in life too. So they can make mistakes too. They can think, like Dracula thinks that humans are bad, but then he comes to a realization later on that they're not that bad anymore. They changed. So again, he only thinks that way but then they all think that he's wise because maybe he's older and he knows, like, could be knowing everything, and that's why he was trying to protect everyone, like all the monsters. But he was mistaken, and the same thing can happen with the parents, grandparents. They can be mistaken about something because they still carry on that false belief, that irrational belief about something.
Yep.
So
To add to that point would be on the perspective of Mavis, right? She sees her father in the most vulnerable state when she catches him lying, right? And that's also a very enlightening moment for her, I would say.
okay.
Because the things that I also saw in the movie is that, you know how you said that she needs to have that independence to realize the world?
Yeah.
She has that within her world. She has that, the treatment that we were talking about, how people do not get treated fine. She gets that treatment from her dad, right? So it's her dad who actually shows the entire world to her. So somehow, while she is so sheltered, she is seeing the reflection of the entire world just between her and her father.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
So while he is inflicting that fear and putting this is the world, he is the only world that she has.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one dictating how the world works. And because he is that personification of world for Mavis, he also breaks that illusion. He breaks that trust that she has in this world.
Yeah.
Right? So her innocence is also gone in the same day that she turns 118. That, oh my God, the world is not this place that I thought it was. Right? Yeah, my dad lied to me. Why did he lie to me? What did he have to say? And you can see the change of perspective in Mavis too. And then you see Mavis throughout movies second and third, a different person, of course. But that's what I'm getting at. Like the one who builds up your world is also responsible for making sure that the world is broken.
Okay. So what you're getting is that her dad, although doing a disservice to her, to sheltering her, at the same time, when sheltering her, he's trying to show like all the good that the world has.
Yes.
But when he makes the mistake of like lying to her and doing all of that, he's also showing the world can be this evil, this dark,
yes,
whatever it is.
Yes.
So like showing both,
parts.
both polarities.
You see why this is my favorite movie? It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can from a different perspectives, movie works differently.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God, there are other characters in the movies too. We see Frankenstein have this fear of fire, right? You can see that phobia of fear in him, and he also has a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
He is direct representation of anxiety, you guys. Frankenstein. And then there is the overworked werewolf, the father who has so many werewolf kids, and he's just overworked. He is the representation of Dracula if he was super busy.
Yeah, like that has a lot of kids, and then it's just like work all the time.
Yeah.
And then the mom stays home and then just taking care of all the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there is the Invisible Man, who is just dorky.
Yeah, and he apparently has ginger hair.
You see that in the third movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched the third movie though. So.
I watched all of them.
Okay. So what I was going to go at is when we were talking about the zinging.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like because for Dracula, and not only Dracula, but everyone there believes that the zinging only happens once. Like that idea that we were talking about, like loving
somebody
Yes.
like that only happens once. Yeah.
the like the psychological theme debate, whatever you want to call it, there is that love at first sight.
Yep.
And what you mentioned about like being only joining there, then versus like the long-term compatibility, because he's the only one, so then it's because of that they're compatible, then there is love at first sight.
Yeah.
Or is it the other way around? They're compatible
Because it's convenient.
and then love. Because here's the thing.
Question of convenience is always there.
Yes.
Continue.
And we have this feeling.
Yeah.
And this idea that when we like someone,
Mm-hmm.
and that someone likes us back,
Mm-hmm.
we think like, oh, this is so rare. I like this person and this person likes me too. So then you infatuate yourself with that idea. And then, because you might say, oh, you fell in love. And passion comes first.
Does it?
I feel like passion comes first, like that. Like everything is a like flowers and like you're in a holiday state.
But
You're in a holiday state when you're kind of like on that passion state and in that like I'm in love and all
you
of
have to be
that.
so delusional to be there.
Then I'm a delusional.
Sorry, I did not mean to call you out.
No, I'm a delusional then, because whenever I encounter
Yes.
that feeling of the passion there first, because you start liking the person and then you go through that passion idea and then you think like that there is no one else, that that's your person and you're in love, blah blah blah, whatever. But that's because you have things that the other person like, and then vice versa, and then you start working it out and it's great and all, and the love comes later, because then love, like you said, is an action and it's a verb and all of that, because you're choosing to do what you're doing there. Because the first 3-6 months of the holiday state or honeymoon phase, you want to call it whatever it is just that rush of neurotransmitters that is going through your head and making you feel so good, like
You know how
nothing can stop you, you're invincible, everything is just on the side. So the zing is like that dopamine rush. It is real, but it's only the beginning.
So
And
are
then-
you wait a sec. So are you telling me that when your eyes meet somebody and then you have this glint in your eye and then you can just and you're
Yes.
just in love with them?
Yeah, well, that's the dopamine talking.
I've had that,
Yeah, that's
but that does not mean I'm in love with.
yeah. No, I
said
know, but
person.
I know, but I mean, like you, but it's because we sometimes we don't have like enough words to explain. And
No.
yes,
Yeah.
because you can like, what do you have in there? Like you like, you adore, you like, you love, and what else is all in between there?
You're a fan of this person.
Yeah, you're a fan of this person and all of that, you know, like, but in the end, it's just like synonyms of liking, and then the liking transforming into love, and
But
then you
then-
loving the person.
But if we're talking about love, I believe at core of every emotion is love. Whether it's anger, whether it's joy,
Okay.
whether it's sadness, the core of it is love.
Mm.
That's my belief.
Okay.
So when you're talking about this idea of zing,
Yeah.
Words are no wording.
See, sometimes the words are not there. We don't have words to explain. But my idea was this.
Yes.
The zing
Yes.
is like a dopamine
Mm-hmm.
rush. It's real there, right? The dopamine rush is there. It's real. It's only the beginning. The lasting love is built, and it's built on trusting the person, on understanding each other, and that's where the understanding comes in, because your idea of like the other person loving you the way you want them to love you, then that's not understanding the person. And shared experiences as well.
Shared experience is very important.
Yes.
Trauma bonding is important.
Yeah, that can happen too. But the idea is that, and Dracula,
Yeah.
like he sabotages love with Mavis, and in a sense of like
Yes.
he's,
But it wouldn't be a great love story if he didn't do that.
yeah, he's basically like crush her dreams, right? And when Johnny leaves and Mavis is what, devastated there,
Poor thing.
right?
Yeah.
It's she even says like there's no more reason for me to leave anymore.
That's so sad. Poor
Right?
thing.
There's no more reason to leave. Like, I'm just like you now. She says that to her dad.
Yo, that's so sad. That's so sad.
Yeah, and
so sad.
and the idea, the thing with that is that, like, that line hurts, like, and it hurts deep because it shows the impact when you limit someone's freedom. And when you do that, the sad part is that the other person stopped believing in the possibility of things happening.
And how sad is that when you stop believing?
Yeah.
And because onto that, we were talking about this earlier about the belief, right? Like how you need to have a belief of yourself, of your own self. You have to be so confident within your own self that nobody from the outside can break that belief of yours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like your core should be so strong that no outside XYZ can come by and break that belief for me. And the only reason I can say that is because I have experienced my beliefs being questioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just mean questioned, I've had I've completely changed my perspective of certain beliefs in my life because of things that happened. And then I stopped believing in them, and then life happened again, and I'm like, what? I was denying this part of myself?
Yeah.
How dare I? Who is she? Not I. You know, it's a very disheartening scene when she goes and says like, no, I'm just like everybody else, because
No, she mentions like, I'm just like you now. Like right at her dad's face, like right at Dracula, and that's where it hurts even more, I think, for him.
Drac.
Because,
I see you, buddy.
And not like, yes, and I feel like the takeaway is love isn't just about keeping someone safe, like Dracula tries to do that, but it's also about like helping the other person grow.
And how do you help the other person grow? How do you tickle that bone?
Yeah, and then that's when you give the other person freedom to be themselves and be authentic. But with that comes the possibility of also that person leaving you.
But that's okay.
Yeah, and it is part of life.
Detachment.
Yes, detachment. Because we all have
Watch the previous episode if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we all have attachments, so it's complicated.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Life is not easy. No, but
we wouldn't be here if it was.
Do you have more questions there?
I just have one more question.
Okay.
How did you like? What was your um, feeling of Dracula getting back Johnny for Mavis? Like when they find
When
out
he
that
went,
yeah.
yeah, like when he went to the
When he
sun,
went
he's
and
just
she
like,
and
yeah,
she has this, I'm just like you
yeah,
now, and then he's like, we have to bring Johnny back because Mavis says that he is her Zing,
yeah.
and they're like,
Oh
we
yeah, and
have to
everybody,
get
yeah, and
back.
everybody's like in favor of that.
Yeah,
And then because of, again, they have that belief that you only love once.
like that.
Yeah, like that once. That's what I was telling before earlier. That I don't think I would love someone the way I loved her.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like every love is definitely different. That's why like you maybe that's where it comes like where you could say like you could love a lot of people in your life, or maybe you love only once or whatever is the case, but then because each each relationship that you have with someone else, it's a unique relationship. It's not the same with anyone else. But then loving only once is because loving that person only once, and then the other person, you're gonna love the other person once too. It's not the same. That's why it's. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yes, this reminds me of a song.
Which one?
It says, "मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब न मांग." The line basically means, don't ask for the same love that I gave you because that love does not exist anymore.
Yeah. There you go. Because again.
Well, that's not the literal translation, but that's what I'm getting at. But
and then you love only once that person. Like that love would transform. It can become something else. But then it's only once. You know what I mean? You love that person only once, and then you love the other person only once. So then every time that
every time they come back, it's not going to be the same quality of love that they get.
Yeah, and every time you're loving someone once, that's why like you love only once. That idea of loving only once is because every single person that you love, you're loving that person for the first time, and it's only
it
once.
finally makes sense to me.
Yeah? Okay, you got it? Great. Alright. Because
this entire podcast just for me to understand that one thing. Okay, that makes sense. Oh boy.
But yeah. To answer your question.
Yes.
Like him going there and picking Johnny up.
Mm-hmm.
Because he realizes when he says like, I think I made a mistake, and I think humans are not so bad anymore. And Mavis is the one that pretty much like opens his eye. And of course, we gotta give credit to Johnny too, because the way that he behaved himself shows that there is people out there that can be nice to you, can show you how the stereotype that you create about something or someone else,
yeah,
it can be put to challenge when you encounter a person that shows you that those stereotypes are false beliefs, irrational beliefs. They're non-existent.
Yeah.
But you can only do that if you experiment. If you don't, if you're living in a bubble like Mavis was, then you're not going to be able to challenge those stereotypes.
Yeah.
So you have to. It's that idea of Buddha. There's no like extremes. You got to go through the middle path, and then when you cross that middle path, then you can find what you're looking for.
But how difficult is it to find the middle path? Anyways, that's for another conversation.
It is very hard because we are always like on one side or the other, I guess, and then finding the middle path is definitely not easy.
But it's a must, I think. No?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is because when we go to extremes,
Yeah.
uh, that's when it's that idea of like of you. Let's take a simple example. A political parties, you have the left and the right,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are extremes, and then you have the middle path. So then the middle path is you listens to the right and you listens to the left. You're trying to understand both sides, and in the middle is where you would find common ground. And then on a common ground, that's when you can move forward. Because if you just like take one side, then the other side, you're not learning with the other side. You're not listening to the other side. And then you only believe that there is only that side that you are in it. So if you hear from both sides, then you can take the middle path. But you gotta hear both sides and you gotta understand both sides so then you can actually take the middle path. That's why it's so hard because you are conditioned since you are born to whatever it is that you were like the family you were raised in, the society you were raised in, the culture, the country.
Everything is
whatever.
everything is a construct
Yes.
that we know, and it's coming out of that construct. And how do we come out of that, right?
Yeah, so then that's why it's
See,
hard.
so much betterly explained.
Yeah. But that's why it is hard because of that part.
Yeah.
So now thinking about like Dracula's biggest fear of, I mean, to think about Dracula's biggest fear is not actually humans. That's what like the movie
Makes it out to
makes
be.
it out to be, but it's not. It like he's most irrational fear there, or not irrational, but biggest fear there. It's losing Mavis.
Which is a rational fear, Dad.
It's just
Dracula, Dad.
because like he lost his wife. So there is some sort of like it's a trauma that happened to him, and then that trauma is speaking to him to, I mean, to the time that they're there together, and she's like 118 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But that trauma is still there because he was not able to go visit that trauma and deal with that trauma. So then he's just carrying that trauma, and that's why he doesn't, I don't know, doesn't know how to raise his children out of fear.
Good save.
You know,
Yes,
it's like because he's trying to prevent history from repeating
itself. Yeah.
Like
He
losing
does not want
Mavis,
the
yes,
yeah.
because the same way
So
that he lost
you
his
know
wife.
when we say it's an irrational fear, it really isn't, right? He's just not exposed yet. He has lived in this. Sorry, we had massive dinner before this. It's not an irrational fear, is what I'm saying. It is very much embedded in his psyche because he hasn't felt it out, because that's what trauma response is, right? Like in order to get over trauma, you have to feel your feelings out. We've talked about this so much.
Yeah.
Like we cannot bypass emotions. We have to go through them, because when we bypass them, we're basically not doing a service to ourselves.
Yeah.
And why do you not want to do service to yourselves? Do you not love yourself? I love myself. Well, anybody who knows that, who knows me knows that, so I don't have to say that.
But continue on, like, if you think of the line that Dracula says, like, I realize now children need to discover things for themselves.
Blah, 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 blah. Yes.
And, like, this is a lesson that every parent eventually faces. Yeah. You can't protect your child from life.
And you shouldn't. You're doing a disservice to them.
Yes, and that's why I said they have to leave it. Like they have to live their lives.
It's sad. It's
Even
true.
even if that means experiencing pain.
That also goes for children, though. It's not just for parents.
Yes.
Like after a certain point, when your children start becoming your parent, like when they're taking up a role of a parent, it's so important for children to also know that their parents are also doing this life for the first time. And yes, you have seen life differently than they have, but while it is your job to protect your parents, it is not your responsibility to shelter them all the time. You have to tell them what is going on in the world,
Yeah.
because you are doing them a disservice if you don't tell them. They, I think that's why it's so important to have conversations with your parents, whether you're old or whether you're young. Just one day you just sit and you talk about anything and everything.
Yeah.
Right? And it does not even have to be something specific that you want to talk about. It's just that, hey mom, hey dad, let's talk about this because we can connect on this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that connection brings that open-mindedness, not just to the child but also to the parent, because this parent has now let their child grow up into this beautiful adult, and they are experiencing life from a different lens than they did.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that sharing of lenses together that makes you come and sit in unity at one point, and that's what love is, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think that like when watching that animation, Dracula final act of love.
Yeah.
Is letting go.
Haven't we learned that in the last movie too?
And that is so freaking hard. You have no idea. Of letting go. It's like it's not easy.
We do talk about letting go, and then in that terms of letting go too, when you are letting go of somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean this in terms of movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that when you are going through a relationship breakup, and it does not just have to be a boyfriend, girlfriend, a husband, and wife. No,
Can be
any
friends,
relationship,
yeah.
whether it is your brother, whether it's your sister, whether it's your best friend, whether it's just the friend,
Mm-hmm.
right? You were friends with them, you were so well connected, and then one random day you're like, no, I do not want to be friends with this person. And because the other person on the receiving end is like, what is this? They are going to go through that entire experience of grief, of letting go,
Yeah.
right? And in order to let go, they also realize that people who come with this person, they also have to let go of that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because those were never their people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we are selfish beings at the end of the day, and we want our people to be our people. I'm very territorial. People are very territorial, right? So if you are cutting that off, you're also not just letting go of that relationship that you have, but you're also letting go of all of the energy, all of the love that you put out for this person and the people who are connected with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's that letting go is so difficult because the amount of energy it requires to pull all of that back is so much.
Yeah.
At least that's what I feel letting go is difficult.
Okay.
That's my perspective on letting go.
For me, letting go it's hard because the letting go part is letting go of that ideal that you created of the other person.
Well, that's an idea.
Yeah, and then because you created that ideal, and then
You built on that idea.
yeah,
right?
you built on that ideal. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
when, like for example, like when Dracula says like, I always thought that the worst thing ever would be seeing you go.
Yeah.
But the worst is seeing you unhappy.
How sad is that?
And that is huge because, again, it's the realization that controlling someone isn't love.
No.
And when you create that ideal, you're trying to control because you build that ideal, and then you want that ideal that way that the person loves you. That's the one that you wanted to be, and that's the ideal that you created, and that's you trying to control the other person. But in the end, you have to just trust that they will find their own way to do that. And maybe that one way that they will do that, it's not the way that serves for you. And that is sad because it's not what you wanted, right? But it is what it is. Transylvania is.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, overprotecting parenting. You know, holds kids back instead of keeping them safe.
Fear.
Yeah.
Just like the police outside, there's so much fear.
But hey, love and independence helps challenge fear.
Love and independence, overprotectiveness, anxieties that come with parenting,
Yeah.
fear of losing your child, fear of your child growing up, fear of unknown. There's so much fear of unknown.
Yeah.
Right? There's irrational fear. So the movie is so well done because of the humor.
Yeah, like
You know how tensely we got on this?
It was always sad too, you know, like movies. Like, of course, there are a bunch of sad movies, drama. We'll probably talk about them one day, but it's, yeah. There has to be some sort of like
Component.
yes, components in there of comedy, of laugh, of love, you know, romance or whatever it is. Because if it's all one thing too, it gets boring.
Well, on that note,
one thing I wanted to ask our people out there is, have you ever had to challenge a belief that was passed down to you though?
thank you for tuning in. That'll be our outro. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below whatever new movies you would like us to talk about. This is Bruno. This is Rabri.
she got all the lines and I didn't say any shit. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Peace. Bye.
Bye.